Good evening and welcome to the regular school committee meeting of January 10th, 2023. It's 7:16 p.m. We're about to begin our meeting, which is being recorded by our recording secretary, Leanna Harris. Welcome. We're also being broadcast on Peabody Access Television and I believe Facebook Live and maybe some other platforms. Before we begin the meeting, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Vidala to introduce some very special guests that we have from the Carroll School.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hockman. So I'd like to welcome Lila, Andrew, Adani, and Avery from the Carroll School. And they have a presentation for us. But before we begin the presentation, we would like you to lead us in the pledge, and we're going to have a moment of silence as well. So if you'd ask everybody to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So please remain standing. We'll do a quick moment of silence.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith.
Okay, we're very excited to have you here today. I know you have a lot to talk about, so if you could each introduce yourself and tell us what grade you're in, and then talk a little bit about the program that you're here to present.
My name is Lila, and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Andrew, and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Idani, and I am in 4th grade.
My name's Avery, and I'm in 4th grade.
This year, our school started a new program called ROARS. ROARS is a school-wide behavioral expectation program. A Carroll School tiger always roars. Each letter of ROARS stands for a specific behavioral expectation. R stands for being responsible, O stands for being on task, A stands for being accountable, R stands for being respectful, and S stands for being safe. All the students and staff at Carroll School try very hard to follow these expectations.
There are lots of opportunities for students to be recognized for displaying ROARS behavior. Students who are being responsible, on task, accountable, respectful, or safe during the school day can earn a Tiger ticket. On Fridays, we have a Tiger ticket raffle. One student from each grade wins a special prize, like a dance party for their class, extra recess, or sitting in Miss Smith's chair for the day.
We are always learning about and practicing ROARS behavior, like every day in our cafeteria. During lunch, we practice using a voice level 2 to talk with our friends, and a voice level 0 when an adult says tigers. All the students respond with yes. We become silent and listen for directions or announcements. The whole school earned a dance party, and the day before Thanksgiving, we are working towards other dance parties in February.
Other ways students are recognized is by being nominated for a positive office referral. Students receive a positive office referral for showing above and beyond ROARS behavior, like hard work, compassion, a positive attitude, teamwork, and citizenship. When a student earns a positive office referral, Ms. Smith announces it to the whole school after our morning announcements. We are here tonight because each of us earned a positive office referral for showing compassion, hard work, teamwork, and a positive attitude and citizenship.
Excellent. Thank you so much. One of the big things that we've been working on for all the schools in Peabody this year is really trying to make all of our schools feel safe and welcome, so all the students feel like they belong there. And this is one of the ways that the Carroll School is doing it, and I love that it's associated with Tigers and your Roar, but we're all very proud of you. I know your parents are here. They're proud of the work that you're doing, and this really goes a long way to helping you set the example as 4th and 5th graders for our younger students as well. So we're all very proud of you. I know that the committee probably has some questions for you, and they want to let you know how proud they are of you as well. But great job with your presentation.
Well, first of all, congratulations, because you've all been selected for some reason to be here tonight for some good things that you've done in your school or outside of your school. So congratulations to each of you. You should give yourselves a pat on the back, because that's quite an accomplishment for a 4th and 5th grader. Good job. And Mrs. Smith, sounds like a wonderful program that you've instituted at the Carroll School. No surprise there. You're constantly leading in our school district, so we're very, very proud to have you as principal of our largest elementary school, doing a great job. So thank you very much. Any of the committee members have any comments or questions? Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for the students. Did you help to, decide what each of those initials stood for? Is that how you got involved with working on the project for Roar?
We did all of the above roars, so we did respectful, on task, accountable, responsible, and safe.
Very good. And have the younger students come to you to ask you about this, or did you get to speak to them about it?
No.
But they still learn from you when you do those behaviors. That's good. Well, thank you for coming and explaining it to us. Good work.
Mr. Swanson?
Thank you. I have to ask, how many of you guys have had public presentations before? You guys did an awesome job presenting and explaining this program to us, so kudos to you all. And again, as Mr. Hockman said, great job in representing your school and showing a lot of pride in your school, so congratulations.
Great kids.
Well, I can tell you, I happened to be at the Carroll School yesterday during morning announcements. I read for Mrs. Edmonds' class on Monday mornings. And that roars came over the loudspeaker. A young student was given the announcement, and I said to myself, what is this? Because this was new, and now I know what it is. So I'm excited to learn what it's about, and excited that you guys are participating in it, and hoping, well, you are living up to the what all those words are, and I hope the rest of your classmates and schoolmates do too, because it's a great program, and continue to do great things. So thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you for joining us. I think maybe we'll take a photograph for your parents if they're interested, and then we'll get you, must have homework to do, right? You all have homework to do still? All right.
Well, and we had our first 5th grade basketball game tonight, and so Andrew and Lila are on the team. Of course, we won, both, girls and boys.
Big wins.
And so, yes, they probably ran home, showered, maybe had something quick to eat. Now they have to go home and do homework, and go to bed.
All right, well, let's take a picture, and then you'll get on your way. Congratulations on your win today.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you again to the Carroll School for starting our meeting off in such a joyous way. We're now going to, annually, we have an organizational meeting, and tonight happens to be the night for that organizational meeting, so I will accept the motion to adopt the bylaws of the Peabody School Committee.
So moved.
Motion made by Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mr. Amico. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Next, we get to select our voting order, and I would ask Dr. Higgins, if he will, to assist us here. He tells me that he has a lot of experience with this. He was on the Wheel of Fortune or something like that. I don't know. So I think we're supposed to, we do this alphabetically, Mrs. Dunn? So Mrs. Carpenter will select first. Oh, Mr. Amico, excuse me. Mr. Amico. And Dr. Vidala, would you mind selecting for Mrs. Carpenter?
Oh, I hope it's a good one.
Out of-
4 for Mrs. Carpenter.
And then Mrs. Dunn? And then myself. Mr. Amico's seat. Mr. Olympio? I got my back right there. And Mr. Swanson has the remaining. I think you're staying. Oh, no, yeah. 1, yeah. Okay. Well, congratulates everyone on your new seat assignments. Thank you. Dr. Higgins wasn't wrong. He was quite proficient in that.
She'll be 4, yeah.
All right, good work, everyone. Our next order of business is to select a new vice chair. Our tradition is for the outgoing vice chair to nominate a vice chair and then open up for any further nominations. So at this point, I will proudly nominate a gentleman who's been on this committee for quite some time, who's performed admirably, both in his role as a committee member and as our chair of our finance committee, that's recently completed almost all of the negotiations with our bargaining units in a fair, respectful, and dignified manner. I certainly appreciate his work on this committee, and I nominate John C. Olympio as the next vice chair of the school committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I have a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mr. Swanson. On the nomination of John C. Olympio as vice chair, roll call vote.
John Olympio.
Present.
John C. Olympio.
John C. Olympio.
John C. Olympio.
Thank you to my fellow committee members. I really appreciate all your effort and support over the years, and here's to a great year ahead of us. Thank you. So we're at the stage where we have to nominate a secretary, and I would like to nominate John Swan. No,
So John wants, he has to nominate.
I'm out of practice. Go ahead, Mr. Swanson.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate a friend of mine who's given me good guidance over my candidacy and my term here so far, Mrs. Joe Amico for secretary.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Mr. Swanson?
Joe Amico.
Mr. Olympio?
Joe Amico?
Mr. Hoffman?
Joe Fredo Amico.
Mr. Amico?
Present.
Mrs. Dunn?
Joe Amico.
All right. Thank you. So on to the minutes. Approval of minutes?
Motion to approve the November 22nd, 2022 regular school meeting minutes, which have been revised.
Second.
Okay. On the motion, anybody? No. Roll call vote?
Mr. Swanson?
Present.
Yes?
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Motion to approve the December 13, 2022 regular school committee meeting minutes.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Up, I have one correction to
Yep.
make. This would be on page 4 of those minutes. Just to correct a name, it's Detective Lieutenant David Bonfanti, Bonfanti. It's down in paragraph 8.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Anybody else? No? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Swanson?
Present.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes?
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
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 Okay, on approval of bills, I'll make a motion to approve warrant number 5231 dated January 10, 2023, in the amount of $9,900,000, excuse me.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
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 I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5246 dated January 10, 2023, subject to audit in the amount of $1,041,127.52.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
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 I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5248 dated January 10, 2023, in the amount of $86,635.29, subject to audit.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
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 Thank you. On to continued business. Welch School, Ms. Dunn?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Olympio. Right now, Welch School project's moving right along. I really don't have a lot of new news for all of you, just that every time you go down there, the school is more and more complete. So the goal is to continue working at really a rapid pace. It is all closed up now for the winter, so that was a really great milestone to reach. And I think soon we will be able to bring you into the building to get a tour. It'll be much easier to have people come in and see what's going on. We do post photographs on the website if anybody wants to see that, and we will be having the monthly Welch School Building Committee meeting next Thursday at 9:30, and we have weekly OAC meetings. Dr. Vidala and I attend those. And then there's a lot of behind-the-scenes paperwork because you're involving the government. And they're keeping us busy, but we are up to date with all of the submittals that have to go in. MSBA is actually going to come out and do a site visit next month. It's just a routine visit for them, but it is, again, another milestone, shows that we're moving right through. So thank you, and always, if you have questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn, and thank you for all your hard work. Okay. Anybody else on? No. All right, next is Superintendent's Report. Dr. Vidala?
Thank you, Mr. Olympio. So we had a great presentation from the Carroll School students. The second item is regarding the MSBA 2023 Statement of Interests that we intend to submit. So in your packet, there is a notification from the Mass School Building Authority notifying us that the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School and the Center School were not invited into the MSBA core program. So as disappointing as that is, we received that information. We were asked or encouraged to submit our statement of interest moving forward. So those windows for 2023 open up this Friday, January 13th, and they close, I believe it's April 14th. In the past, we have submitted towards the end of the window. We've taken our time with the submissions. And sometimes that has you procrastinate towards the end of the window. So we want to be proactive this time. So Ms. Dunn and I met last week. We reviewed the submission from last year, figuring where we can make some improvements, and we've agreed that we would like to submit towards the beginning of the window this time. We do feel as though we're prepared, but we wanted to get started. So we've carved out some time together to be able to do that. Also in your packet, under written communications, there is a letter from the NEASC Commission. We had to do a special progress report for the high school, which we received, that was in October, and we received our feedback from them on December 19th. Now, within that letter, there's many commendations of all the things that have been implemented in the past couple years, and the letter to Ms. Randall give them commendations on their new attendance policy, the communication from the current administration to faculty, to families, and to students, the implementation of co-teaching in the 9th grade in both ELA and math, as well as their advisory program, and our continued virtual school program, Peabody Prep. So they did highlight that that is a great pathway for people, and so there's a lot of good things that are going on at Peabody High School. They did make note that we do continue to be on warning status for instruction and community resources, which is related to the current facilities. So this special progress report will be included in the next submission, as this is an area of concern for us moving forward. If there's anything I missed, Ms. Dunn, I don't know if you've been doing this and have a great relationship with the MSBA. I'm not sure if there's anything you'd like to add to this piece.
Just that I am continually amazed each time we do this. With the deeper the research goes, the more information we find to put in these reports. I always say, I think this is the one that's going to do it. I'm serious. I think this year is the one that's going to do it. We've got some more information about, you know, the needs of that building and how long different things have existed, and we're attacking different areas of the SOI. You're really limited in what you can put in, but we're going to maximize every single possible piece of information that we have to get it before the MSBA so that they can see how necessary it really is to select Peabody for the next new school.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. And I continue to advocate for us, you know, to be able to get into the core program, and I know that the committee has been doing this for quite some time, but I also encourage our families and, you know, anyone who has the ear of a politician or a legislator at the state level. You know, this is our year for Peabody, and really, I think our kids deserve it, our teachers deserve it, and our community deserves it. And I am optimistic this year, but I think that, you know, collectively as a community, we pull together for a lot of things, and I think, you know, it's really time that we start to make a little bit of noise about Peabody High School getting into the program, and I do think that it will be really the crown jewel of a great school district. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a couple members that want to speak on this as well.
Hockman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Olympio. I just wanted to congratulate Dr. Vidal and Mrs. Dunn for the hard work that you've put in with these statements of interest. And one of the things that really came out to my attention that we lack is a facilities plan. The last facilities plan that this district accomplished was in 1998, which is now 25 years old. Is something that I think is important for us to undertake. It's a big it's a big job. It's a significant plan that would identify deficiencies within our buildings and areas where we should spend some money assisting or repairing items that, before they fail, so that we don't have to be reactive to some of the things that we currently do. With that, this is a conversation that I think is going to take longer than just tonight, and we need to get some more information about the cost associated with it, the time frame associated with it, and hopefully, we can work with our partners at City Hall in a citywide strategic plan that would include a facilities plan, so that we can absorb some of that cost and share some of that cost in perhaps a more efficient way through some grant funding that would be available, might be available through the City Hall, that might not be available through the school department. So anyway, I just wanted to throw it out there. It was something that Dr. Vidala brought to my attention at yesterday's Building and Grounds meeting, and I thought this was a better time to talk about it than during the subcommittee report. And I did want to recognize both Mrs. Dunn and Dr. Vidala for continuously working on these SOIs. It's been year after year after year, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Again, through you to Dr. Vidala and to Ms. Dunn, again, thank you. And I can't imagine the disappointment you get each year when you open that package up. But I commend you and I thank you, and as does the community, for the amount of effort you continuously put into this year after year, the additional information you dig up to make it stronger and better year after year. It's much appreciated. And obviously, again, the disappointment, but you keep coming and charging at it, and we very much appreciate that. I did have a question for you, Dr. Vidala. On the NEASC aspect of things, when we're on warning for our facilities, you can use the NEASC report to pull into the SOI. Is there any fears, or does the NEASC take a view that we are continuously applying and it's something that's out of our control at this point? Is there any fear that things go in the wrong direction with NEASC because we don't get these approvals, we're not moving forward with the MSBA?
So they do ask us to continue to show what we're doing and what steps we're taking. And so if we were not submitting SOIs and the city was not supporting the opportunity for a new high school, then we would definitely be in jeopardy of losing our accreditation. Since we are doing this, we can show that we're doing everything in our power. And things like Mr. Hockman mentioned, if we're looking at a master plan for the city and we're looking at a facilities plan, it shows that we're taking this seriously and we're moving forward. We're not neglecting our buildings. That will put us in good standing. I think that one of the reasons why you have NEASC is they do help put pressure on, because it's important. It's important that our students have the right facilities and our teachers have the right resources in order to provide those instructional opportunities. So, I do think it's something we need to take seriously. It's not something that we can just say, oh, we submit every year and, it's out of our hands. They need to see that we're really taking an active role, and I think, it's very clear, the work that Mrs. Dunn is doing, and even the things that she's doing, with the Mass Association of School Committees and the things that all of our city officials are doing, our school committee and our city council. It helps, and it goes a long way. So we'll have to continue to do that. I'm hopeful that, our new governor and lieutenant governor have good ties to Peabody, and our new Secretary of Education, being on the North Shore, that we'll be able to, really help bring them in and show them the facilities that we have so that they can see firsthand.
Thank you, and I love that there's a large plan there as well. Thank you. And again, both of you, thank you very much for continuing with the efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Ms. Dunn?
I can tell you all that within a half an hour of receiving the letter, Dr. Vidala and I were on the phone planning the next step, so we haven't wasted any time. And if we can work that into a response to NEASC to show our deliberative efforts to do this, it will help a tiny bit, but we didn't waste any time. We really jumped right on it, and I think we've got some really good information to go in. Also, in response to Mr. Hockman and about that plan, that 1998 plan, it drove a lot of the improvements up at the high school that were taken on in 2004, 2010. It still, was driving a lot of the projects up there. But to me, the saddest thing of all is to read that 25-year-old report and realize how many of the things in that report still need to be addressed. And last time I found a NIASC report from 1979 that read like you could have read it this morning. That really bothers me. I know people have tried to do things, but boy, this has been a long haul. It's actually twice as long as the windows for the Welch. We got those, so I'm not giving up on this either.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn.
Okay, the next item is we have a great announcement that we received a Holocaust and Genocide Studies grant to further the work that we are doing. So I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Chase, who's done incredible work with this, and she's going to describe, we received $60,000 over 2 years and some of the plans that we have. Dr. Chase?
Thank you. So we started off the new year with a nice start in the grant world. And we were notified just recently of a $60,000 award to support our work with Holocaust genocide studies that will be spread over the next 2 years. So in year one, we really wanted to focus on giving teachers the support that they need in order to make the transition to that curriculum. So we focused on our ELA and social studies teachers, grades 6 through 12, and worked in an opportunity not just for training, but for coaching. So for example, if you're in a session and learning how to use resources related to the teaching of night, it's not just a one and done. You'll get somebody on the other end to give you that one-to-one coaching that you might need as questions come up. So we thought it was important that it was training that followed through after the fact. The second piece is being used for materials and resources. So as teachers find that they need resources to be able to do that teaching, we want to make sure that we have those available for them. In year two, we really wanted to keep investing in the teachers' professional development, because certainly as they get deeper into the curriculum, they'll have additional questions. And so wanted to make sure we had that as well. And finally, we wanted to make sure that we had funding that would be available so that students could directly benefit from this, and so we put aside some funding to bring in speakers related to the subject. So that's what it looks like over the 2 years. It's a pretty simple grant the way that we presented it, but we really wanted to focus on professional learning and support for teachers, and then also giving students the opportunity to have some speakers come in, because that was such, had such an impact on staff when we had that. Related to that is we have a request for Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is taking place on April 27th. There was a written request within the packet to hold the ceremony for that day here at the Higgins Middle School. And it's nice that it coincides with this grant, because it really creates an opportunity for us to connect with the community. So it's one thing to just do this work within the schools, but it's really important to have the community on board and to have students and faculty know that the community is in support of their work. And so this was a nice opportunity and request to create some of those connections between the work that we're doing here and what's happening out in the community. So that alignment really fits what this grant is trying to do. So with that, there is a request to waive fees that go along with the use of the building. And so that might be a nice opportunity for us to use grant funding to support some of that. And with that, I think maybe if Dr. Vidal, if you wanted to jump in on that.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Chase. So it's very exciting that Holocaust Remembrance Day is celebrated. They have a ceremony here at the Higgins, and it's a huge honor for us as the city of Peabody to be able to host that. And I know it's been done in years past, and this is the first time the last 2 years they had to do a virtual event. So this is the first time that they're bringing this back since, I believe, 2019. So they weren't able to do it in 21, or in 2020, 21, or 22. So this is the first time in about 4 years that they're able to do it. I think it's a great opportunity for the city, and I think it kind of puts Peabody on the map as a leader. We would like to encourage our students to attend this and utilize the grant funding to, pay for the costs of this. They have requested that the committee waive the fees. I think we can take care of it through this. I think that we'd all be in support of using the grant funds if the committee wanted to empower us to do so, because I think we can then show that we are committed as a school district and as a city to really making sure that, we're partnering with Salem State and that we bring this to our students. But by paying for it in the grant, then we can, sort of make it an educational component as well for our students and our teachers. We thought that would be an interesting way to do it, but, I obviously want to bring it to the committee and, hear everyone's thoughts. But this is really a great opportunity for us as a city to welcome Salem State back for this very important ceremony.
Ms. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Dr. Vidala and to Dr. Chase, I'm thrilled about this. I really am, because it's just such an important subject for our students and for the whole community. And being able to host the remembrance ceremony is truly an honor, and it's an incredible ceremony each year. It's I can't even describe how amazing it is to go to see what is presented. You never, I mean this, you can never leave that ceremony without being truly impacted by what you learn. For our students, it'll be wonderful. I would say that if you feel it would help to utilize funding from the grant to pay for the event, then I would say I'd like to make a motion that we follow the recommendation of the superintendent and do that. So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Amico. Mr. Amico?
Thank you, through the chair. I want to thank Dr. Chase, Dr. Vidala, and Mr. Hockman. I remember about a year and a half ago, we met right here in this library and talking about advancing and trying to get some information to our students, and that's what it was really about, information and education on the Holocaust and on genocide. And Dr. Chase, I remember in the conversation, one of us asked you if you can work on some grants, and here we are. So thank you so much for all you do with writing those grants and bringing them here and putting teachers in a position to succeed. So they're very lucky to have you, to lean on you for their instruction and so forth. So thank you.
I also have some great support, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Miss Emily Moore, Director of Humanities, who was great in putting this grant together with me, and also Debbie Colton, who was introduced to us earlier in the year. She has been a tremendous supporter on the other end of the phone anytime we have a question or need to run something by her. So it's been really a great opportunity to work with her as well.
Mr. Hockman?
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Chase, thank you. I know I pushed a year and a half ago, starting at that meeting, and that was a great meeting. I think it was the night that you met Debbie Colton. It was a terrific, terrific woman, passionate woman in this subject. And I know I pushed and you've responded, and I personally appreciate it. As a school committee, we all appreciate it because it is important work, and you've, I won't say you've succeeded because there's more work to do, so I'm not going to put it in past tense, but you're succeeding. Grant money is always helpful when it comes to these initiatives because we don't have funding in our budget to meet all the mandates that come down from Beacon Hill, and finding outside sources is incredibly helpful. So thank you and your team for doing that. But thank you, Mr. Amico, for the kind words. That was quite a meeting. It doesn't seem like it was a year and a half ago, but we did put together a pretty talented bunch and had a really clear mission to tackle this problem, to not only educate the kids that go to school in Peabody Public Schools, but, unfortunately, educate some of the educators that work for Peabody Public Schools, and just some people that live here in the United States of America that just don't have an understanding or a grasp as to the magnitude of this history. And we need to learn, we need to teach people that don't know about this history to prevent it from happening again, And, you know, at least I sleep a little bit better each night knowing that, at least here in Peabody, we're doing a little something. You know, this remembrance ceremony, which is going to be on April 27th, which is actually 10 days after Holocaust Remembrance Day. We go by a Jewish calendar, so it changes every year. We keep moving the goalposts on the Christian calendar. But this is something that began as this building opened, being hosted here by the Holocaust Center. I think it was the Holocaust Center of the North Shore, or the Greater Boston Holocaust Studies Center, or something. I always forget the name, but it's essentially the same organization that partnered with Salem State so that they could have greater resources, I think, and have a wider breadth and reach. And it was a great ceremony, and it's a ceremony that I've talked about here in the past year and a half while we've been talking about this subject. This was the ceremony in which Sonia Weitz's, her legacy was allowed to continue by students, middle school and high school students, being nominated as upstanders and being recognized for their role in combating, whether it be anti-Semitism or racism or sexism or some peer pressure or some bullying. It was a teenager taking on a role that was a little bit bigger than who they were at the time for the benefit of more than themselves. And that's how Sonia identified described upstanders. And then that concept got out there in the community, and people in schools and people in churches and people in synagogues and people in mosques would identify the children or the young adults who were examples of this vision that Ms. Weitz had. And I'm hoping that returns to this ceremony. But it's significant that this ceremony happens in Peabody. You know, this is a ceremony that's going to be attended by people from all over Boston, all over the North Shore, all over the Merrimack Valley, even into Metro West. And it's significant that this occurs in this city. And I not only give Debbie Colton and the Salem State University Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies credit for this ceremony taking place at the Higgins Middle School, but I also give credit to Mayor Betancourt. And Mayor Betancourt, if you recall, about a year ago was recognized out of all the mayors or managers of cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He was recognized for being the person who was most sympathetic and most understanding and most open to Holocaust genocide issues and education, and there's a reason for that. And I know the mayor's not with us tonight, but he'll watch this meeting at some point. And I do want to publicly recognize him for his continued leadership in this area. It's significant. The last thing I'll say, and I know I've had the microphone for a while, and if we were in Congress, my time would have exhausted, but we're not. So I just want to mention, even though I think we do have one meeting before this, January 27th is a significant day for Holocaust remembrance, and that's the day in which the Western world liberated Auschwitz, the single largest concentration camp in Europe. And it's a day that will be remembered around the world. It'll be remembered by the United Nations. And there's also an event that's taking place that night, but for whatever reason, that event is taking place by Zoom. And if anyone's interested in that link, perhaps we could put it up on the school website, and it's open to anyone that wishes to attend. And hopefully people do attend, because it's also a moving, as Mrs. Dunn described. It's moving. It's testimony from survivors. It's testimony from children of survivors, and we're losing that. You know, just like we're losing World War II veterans, we're losing that. And thankfully, the Shoah over in Israel was able to document many of the atrocities that took place by interviewing actual people who had firsthand accounts of these horrible events, at least in the Holocaust. I know that what we're working on, Dr. Chase, is bigger than just the Holocaust that took place in Nazi Germany and Europe. It's bigger than that. It's much, much bigger than that, unfortunately. But that's, at least the focus of this ceremony, and it will be the focus of January 27th event as well. Thank you for the patience that you've had with me tonight and allowing me to speak as long as I have.
Roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you all. I appreciate that continued support. I know we're all on the same page with that. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Olympio. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Vidala. Public participation? Do we have anybody online?
We do not have anyone online looking to speak.
Okay. We don't have anybody here. All right, written communications, we have a few of them. We have a MSBA letter, 2022 Statement of Interest. We have the NEASC report that we noted, the notification of the Genocide Education Grant. We have the build-in waiver request for that, and then the North Shore Education Consortium 2022 Annual Report. Motion to receive.
Motion to receive.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Yeah. All right, subcommittee reports. As Mr. Hockman said, that Mayor Betancourt is not here, and I believe there might be some small changes to subcommittee reports, subcommittee assignments, I should say, but we'll go through them here anyways. Education Subcommittee?
Nothing at this point. Thank you.
Okay, Finance Committee, I have something. I'd like to make a motion to withdraw our, I'd like to make a motion to withdraw our motion to accept the MOA pending ratification with ASME administrators for reclarification by the school committee. ASME General, I'm sorry. Yeah, and the dates are July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025.
Second.
On the motion, Mr. Hockman.
Thank you, Mr. Olympio. I just want to make sure that we're abundantly clear among ourselves and with the community that's watching. We're only talking about the 3-year contract.
Yes.
Subject to ratification. We do have a 1-year contract that's pending ratification for this bargaining unit that I think we already ratified, or we approved pending their ratification. Okay, so we've approved it pending their ratification for the 1-year contract, and we're leaving that in place.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on the motion? Okay, roll call vote?
Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
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 School safety, I have nothing to report right now. Athletics and wellness?
I just want to report that winter sports are in full swing. I had an opportunity to catch the girls' basketball game versus Salem at Peabody High last Friday night, and they were spectacular. They looked like they were off to a good start. Noticed a lot of Betancourts and Lamaznis in the stands and on the court. The boys' basketball team is also off to a good start. The wrestling cooperative with Saugus continues to be successful. The track teams, I think the girls and boys, both track teams won their most recent meets. We have a track, another track superstar who has been named, is it the Moynihan Lumber Athlete of the Month, right? She's a talented young girl young lady, I should say, who used to volunteer for us at No Child Goes Hungry in Peabody and is employed by the YMCA, and she's must be training over there, but she's doing well. She's making us all proud. The rest of the hockey team, boys hockey is back up and running. I know that they took a little pause for a bit, and they're back up and running, playing at McVan as their home rink, and the girls are still in a cooperative program and ranked 6th in the state. Continuing to do great things. That was a program, Ms. Carpenter deserves a lot of credit for that program. Pushed for the introduction of girls hockey when we had, I want to say, 3 girls in the city who were interested in playing, and they formed that cooperative with Linfield, and I think there was another, maybe Reading or North Reading at the time, and I think North Reading is peeled off, and, oh, they're still there, okay, good. But I think that there is a majority of Peabody players on that team now. So anyway, it looks like everyone's off to a good start, and I'm told, I think Dr. Higgins reported to me that the weight room is up and running and functional at the high school, so that's a big thing that we've talked about over the course of 6 months. And thank you, Dr. Higgins, for your work on that, and everyone else who assisted you. Certainly, Athletic Director DeRocha has had a lot to do with that as well, and all the coaches and staff there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman, for that report. Quality and standards, Ms. Dunn.
Nothing to report this evening.
Liaison to parent and student advisory boards, Ms. Dunn.
I'm scheduling a parent advisory board meeting for the end of the month, and I don't want to jump the gun until it's all confirmed with a speaker. So I will, of course, you'll get the notification, but we will definitely have a parent advisory board meeting this month.
Thank you. Buildings and grounds.
Thank you, Mr. Olympio. Building and Grounds had an opportunity to meet yesterday. We continue to work towards the demolition of the Kiley building, which is, from what I understand, the funding for that has been approved through a capital bill that the mayor put before the city council in December. It's further my understanding that through the hard work of Dr. Higgins and a lot of other people, that the materials that the school department stored at the Kiley have been removed from the Kiley and are in various locations, including a storage trailer over at the West Memorial School. Special education records, I think, are primarily there. And there are a few other items that need to be removed from that building to prepare it for demolition, but we're moving forward full steam ahead, right, Ms. Dunn? Full steam ahead. And
Well, it's a good expression, but I'll speak to that in a minute.
in addition to that, I believe the locks at the high school have all been changed so that they're key card access only. Is that?
Key card to get in, and then the interior locks, there were 15 rooms that were not able to have the latch lock from the inside. Those 15 have all been updated as well. So they've been rekeyed, and the whole unit has been done from the interior classrooms, and as well as the outside key card access is now fully operational there, as well as some new security cameras at the high school. So lots of good things.
Good stuff. We've had a few issues with, one issue with this building and one issue with the Brown building. It's my understanding the parts are ordered and work orders are in place, and hopefully those things get fixed in due course. And I jumped the gun on the weight room. That was part of this report too. But anyway, thank you all for participating. And we will be meeting again a week from Monday at 27 Lowell Street. It's posted, and everyone is welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk. Ms. Dunn?
On the report, what I would like to say is the fact that when was the decision made and who made it to demolish the Kiley School? As a school committee member, I have been waiting since last March for a report from Mr. Hayfie, which was going to give us an analysis of the deficiencies in that building to allow us to make a decision on what to do. Now, he did get back to us and request that we tell him what we wanted to do with the building because it was going to impact on the costs that would be involved. Were we going to keep it as an administrative building? Did we want to have a preschool center there? And I can understand that. It's now January. I have not seen one analysis of a cost benefit on any option of dealing with that building. To make the decision to demolish it, that is actually a very new decision. And I do not feel comfortable with that until I see some financial information of what is going to be done. The decision to demolish that building came out of nowhere, in my opinion. And I don't like the way it's being handled. I think that this board needs more information to know exactly what the options are. Once that building is demolished, then what happens? I've lived here long enough to know that when something's taken away, you do not get it replaced. You'll be told it'll be replaced, but it'll take a long time. And I honestly want that information. And if we can't get it from our internal employees, then I think we have to have that done by a company or something. We have to have facts. I have no idea what the decision was based on. Do any of you? Have you all gotten reports that we haven't seen yet? Is there anything in writing at all, or was this just a discussion? Because 2 months ago, when this came up, in the middle of a motion, I was really surprised to hear about it, because 2 months before that, we were discussing trying to move administration out of Lowell Street and possibly put it back at the Kiley, and we needed to decide what we were going to do with that building. So I am very upset, and I will tell you this, I have gone back through the minutes for the last year, and I've gone back through all of the tapes of our meetings. And this is absolutely a 180 from what we were discussing back in February and March of last year. So I would like to request again that we get something in writing explaining exactly what is going into this decision to demolish the Kiley, and what are we going to do at that point. And I will remind you that the school committee controls the school buildings. And nothing can be done to our buildings without our input and vote. What the city council decides is totally dependent upon the school committee. And that's the state law. So I'm putting that out there. I want that all on record. And I am going to request again that we get a response to my request now for written information with a cost-benefit analysis of exactly what's going on with the Kiley building before we can properly decide to knock it down. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Mr. Amico, Mr. Hockman, then Mr. Amico.
Thank you, Mr. Olympio. Through you to Mrs. Dunn. My recollection is that we talked about demolishing the Kiley building in October or November, because I have a vivid memory of talking about the mayor including the cost for the demolition in a capital plan that he was presenting to the city council on December 8th, and he did in fact present that to the city council on December 8th, and it's my understanding that that got voted in the affirmative.
He didn't bring it here. I shouldn't interrupt.
No, thank you. And so I do think that we did talk about demolishing the Kiley School here, because like I said, I know I talked about that, the funding for that being included in that capital plan that the mayor was going to be putting forward to the city council. I can tell you that going through Building and Grounds meetings, and I've been reporting that the disrepair of that building has left it in such a condition that it's a safety issue. While I agree with you that school buildings are our purview and only our purview, we can't rebuild that property on our own. We can't demolish that property on our own without sacrificing the education of students or staff here, because our budget is what our budget is. We need the cooperation, or we request the cooperation and look to work with the city council and with the mayor when it comes to something like this, primarily, well, for funding purposes, but also because it's a city issue. I can tell you that the ward councilor for where the Kiley sits, Ward 5, has been attending Building and Grounds meetings regularly and has provided his support for the course of action that we've outlined. And we're frankly at this point afraid that people are going to get hurt with the condition of that building. I mean, there's bricks pulling away from the outside of that building and look as if they're going to tumble at any moment. And we believe that we need to act proactively before that happens. And I don't know that there was ever any conversation about moving staff back into that building. It's not even, I don't even think it would be up to code. I don't think a building inspector would allow for people to move back into that building. That was the reason we got people out of that building, is because of the sewerage issue and a whole bunch of other issues that we haven't, as far as I know, undertaken any steps to remedy or repair. So I don't know that, I know I've talked about not being terribly happy with paying rent or paying a lease at 27 Lowell Street, but if I brought up moving them back to the Kylie, it was certainly tongue-in-cheek. It's nothing that was an expectation or anything that warranted serious consideration. I mean, that building isn't being occupied for a reason. It's in deplorable condition. I wouldn't want to put any of our staff or anyone else in that building. That would be cruel. But in any event, I think that we talked about the demolition, and I see you shaking your head and see you saying otherwise. I'll go through the minutes and the tapes as well if I have to, but I know that I talked about the capital plan that the mayor presented, so that's what makes me very confident that we talked about demolition.
If I may. So just for clarity, I just wanted to jump in. I know we've met as a Building and Ground Subcommittee a number of times. During the Building and Ground Subcommittee report on November 9th, there was discussion of demolition and then a series of motions about the records. And then there was another series of motions from Mr. Hockman on November 22nd. So those two meetings in November, there was discussion. And in the November 9th meeting, there was a discussion of the need to demolish the Kylie School for safety reasons. So that would be the time, just for clarification.
Thank you.
Mr. Amico, and then Ms. Dunn.
Through the chair, and I recall that as well. I remember having the meetings, and I believe Mr. Hockman had asked about records, and I believe Mr. Higgins took care of that and spoke on that as well. And then that led us to the safety of that building and not being able to be used for anything. And I believe someone brought up, I forget who it was, about it not even being ADA compliant any longer. And for safety reasons, I think I believe we took a vote on demolishing it. I mean, we have to look at the records on it, but I believe there was a slew of motions made about the Kylie, those two meetings.
I don't know that there was a motion to demolish the building. I believe there was a motion to remove the records due to a report that the building needed to be demolished for safety reasons. So we can read through the minutes and see exactly what it was, but it was November 9th was a date that I recall it being brought up.
Ms. Dunn?
I will be honest, we definitely took votes about the minutes, the records, which, whether we were going to demolish the building or not, I felt was, I could agree with the need to move the records out of there. They needed to be taken out for the purpose, in my understanding, the purpose of at least assessing that building. We have never taken a vote to demolish that building, and we shouldn't until the full board has all the information in front of it regarding the decision and the reasons behind demolishing it. Someone can sit here and tell me, well, it's not safe. But you know what? If we have to prove why we demolished it, MSBA will ask, why did you get rid of a school building and you're asking for others? There are always requirements for facts and figures behind every vote we take. We definitely have had numerous votes about the records, and as a matter of fact, on November 22nd, there was a motion here, about moving the records to trailers, and in the notes, the Kylie's going to be demolished. That was such a definitive statement, and I agree. We did hear about the mayor bringing a presentation to the city council to demolish the Kylie in a capital budget. As far as I'm concerned, he made that decision. This board did not make that decision. We didn't discuss that at any school committee meetings about what needs to be done at the Kylie. Basically, that is a piece of a plan that we need about what we want to do moving forward with all of our schools. Because there isn't much land left in Peabody for a school. There are historic requirements on that land. It was donated to be a school. That needs to be investigated. There's a lot. We've had this conversation, 20 years ago when they were taking the Kylie offline as a school. None of those items that were discussed all those years ago have been brought up here. Now, maybe they've been happening at your subcommittee meeting. I don't know. But that needs to come before this board before the decision is made. And that's a definite.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Mr. Amico? Mr. Hockman?
Thank you, Mr. Olympio. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Thank you for speaking tonight. Apologies if you're offended by any of the actions that are taking place or that may take place. Please submit what it is that you're looking for in an email to me or to Dr. Vidala so that we can have them addressed. We can have Mr. Hafey here at our next school committee meeting to discuss it. I can assure you that there's been no, other than us talking about demolishing the building and funds being set aside, I think, for that, there have been no contractors engaged. There's been no furtherance of that. We'll call it a possibility. And we'll have whatever information you're looking for to the extent that we're able to obtain it and answer your questions and open and transparent disclosures of whatever it is that you're looking for. As far as I understand, the building is just unsafe. I didn't want to run into another situation where we're looking at Endicott and Warren Street, 30 years later in a property that's now subject to 21E and a whole bunch of other issues that make it unusable. But I understand your concerns and appreciate that they're coming from your heart and in a good place, and that there are other ramifications to demolitions of school buildings than just the demolition of a school building. So we'll have that, whatever answers we can get for you, and we'll bring in whomever we need to assist us with providing you with those answers and ask whatever questions, obviously, that you're entitled to answers to and things like that.
Well, to start off, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I would request that pursuant to the March 8th, 2022 meeting, Mr. Hafey was going to be meeting with 2 companies next week to review possible costs. If he met with those companies, I'd like to know what the result was. That was back in March. That's a good place to start.
Okay, so we'll pull everything. There is also language in the meeting minutes of October 11th from the Building and Ground Subcommittee about estimates for demolishing the Kylie. So we'll get everything that we need. But I know that October 11th and November 9th were 2 dates that it was discussed on the floor here at the regular school committee meetings.
Ms. Dunn, if I may, Mr. Chairman, can we make this an agenda item for our next meeting so that we can have a broader discussion of it? And like I said, Ms. Dunn, if there are specific areas or issues that you wish to have answers to or explore, if you can just give us some advance notice of that so that we can put it out there and try to get the information for you either before that meeting or at that meeting.
I'll be honest, I had been waiting since March for that analysis. I don't think you'll be able to get it in 2 weeks because I know that those facility studies take quite a bit in order to properly look at it because you get a cost for repairs, replacement, bringing it up to code. There's a lot in one of those reports. And unless someone here has seen it, I haven't seen one. And it just flies in the face of good government because, again, I know if we make that decision, we need to be able to back it up. Granted, anybody can look at that building and know it's in trouble. I've been a school committee member going on 20 years now. We've had numerous discussions over those years about the deficiencies of the Kylie and being able to use it and what do we want to do with it. And there was a study done by Tim Healy before he left, which was detailing what we needed to do. But we've had to do that on any school to determine what we want to do. We knock it down, well, what are we going to do when we knock it down? What's the plan? What's the plan? We're going to have a blank cement pad up there? I want to know more details before I can make an informed decision on whether that whole building needs to be demolished. Because you need to be able to look at, is it going to cost more to fix it depending on what you want to use it for? Because there's a difference there too. And we have gone through that discussion years ago. I'm not foolish. I know the building is decrepit. I also know that it has many of the same problems the schools we inhabit have. Heat, plumbing, septic, sewage, security. I can go on and list everything at the Kylie, and it'll apply to about 8 out of 10 schools. So that in itself would let people say, well, it's easy to decide, knock it down. I don't know. And that's what I want. So I would like to see what type of information we have and what the decision to demolish that was based upon. There had to have been some kind of a cost analysis. It's cheap to knock anything down, then you don't have to deal with it. But what do you do afterwards? And is it the right decision?
Mr. Amico?
Thank you, through the chair. I was hoping maybe we, as a committee, can get a tour of the Kylie. Set up I don't know if we have to set up a meeting, but maybe we can get a quick tour of the Kylie, if it's safe enough for us to get in there, and just take a look at the inside and walk around and take a look at the outside, and then obviously we'll have reports, but I mean, then we'll have reports in front of us, and then we'll have the eye test as well that I think we all need to see. We haven't been in that building for quite a long time. If we could do that, I'll make that in the form of a motion. If we can, I think we have to set up a meeting if we're all, so we can work through the mayor's office and work through Dr. Vidal's office. Let's set up a tour of the Kylie. It'll, I think for security reasons, I think it can only be us. I don't know if it's open to the public. I wouldn't want public in there. So it would have to be almost set up as like an executive session walkthrough, if we could.
I'd second that motion, and I'd like that walkthrough to take place before our next school committee meeting so we can continue moving forward on the discussion that's started tonight and a decision before that building hurts somebody.
We'll amend that.
On the motion, anybody? Actually, I would, Ms. Dunn brought up a good point too. It might be a minor detail, but deed restrictions on, I'd be curious, I can appreciate where Ms. Dunn's coming from because we don't want any surprises down the road. Everything's hunky-dory, and then all of a sudden you have a family member down, that used to own the property, and if there's any restrictions on the deed, I know I'm going into my law school property class, but stranger things have happened, and all it would take is just for us to review the deed. So maybe if we could have somebody pull the deed for us, just, I mean, we don't want to be embarrassed by that. All right. Okay. Motion? Roll call vote?
Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
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 Thank you. Great discussion.
That concludes my report.
Come in. All right. Special Education Parent Advisory Board, I will be posting something soon. Liaison to City Council and Legislation Delegation, Ms. Carpenter's not here. Redistricting Subcommittee?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Thank you. Any new business? No?
Oh,
Mr. Amico?
sure, through the chair to Dr. Vidala, could we also, for the next agenda, can we get something in terms of starting for the summer program, the summer food program, or whether or not we can get an education program going? I'd like to start talking about that because before we know it, we'll be into the springtime, wishful thinking.
Actually, while we're on that subject, a few years back, we had what I dubbed the Joe Amico Resource Center here at the Higgins, which was one-stop shopping for all, for all departments within the city for parents to get to. I thought it was pretty successful and was wondering if maybe we could look into whether or not that's something we wanted to undertake this summer as well. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, items for the next agenda will be handled in the regular course of business. Thank you for a great meeting, everybody.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.